Hello, and welcome to yet another video lecture from our PhD webinar series hosted by the NMU Writing Center. My name is Niklas Mitrovic, and this video's topic is discussion and conclusion. This is from the PhD webinar that was done the 26th of February 2021. We have, during this recent webinar series, covered all the main sections of the IMRAD structure, and we have arrived here at the end, the final discussion and conclusion. If we look back at the previous webinars in this series, there is one idea that we have tried our best to communicate, and that is that everything is connected. The different sections are not isolated from each other. They are telling the exact same story. It is therefore important that the discussion and conclusion is based upon and communicates well with the previous sections that the text consists of. It doesn't really matter if it's a published article on particle physics or a classic fairy tale like this one, Vasilia the Beautiful. They both consist of characters that drives the narrative forward with their actions and by interacting with each other. All writing has a beginning, the introduction, a middle part, and an ending. That would be the conclusion. Let us think about an article based on the IMRAD structure as a journey. It begins with a plan that tells you where you're going and what you're expecting to encounter on the way and at the final destination. This would be your introduction, including the problem formulation, research questions, or hypothesis. You will need to choose modes of transportation in order to embark on the journey and to reach the final destination. Certain places can be reached by multiple types of transportation, while others only by boat, by foot, and so forth. Your choice will in turn affect what you're able to see and experience on the way, and how fast you will get to the final destination. This can be seen as your chosen method or methods and theories. Your results will in turn be a product of your chosen method or methods. Traveling by foot will give you a highly detailed experience of the forest, of the individual trees, leaves, insects, and so forth. But it will only be an experience of your immediate surroundings. Traveling by plane would, on the other hand, give you a totally different perspective on the landscape. It would grant you the possibility to see how it is shaped and which main components it consists of, but details would no longer be visible. This would in turn result in a different experience. Once you reach the final destination, it's time to sit down and reflect over the journey and your experiences. This would be you discussing your results. Subsequently, the final conclusion is derived from a marriage between results and discussion. That would be your main findings. It's also important to keep in mind that in the social sciences, the IMRAD structure might look a little bit different. There, it's not uncommon that you have a literature review or a theory chapter, usually situated after the introduction, before the methods, or sometimes after the methods chapter. This depends on what fits your project the best. It is also quite common that you will see a combination of the results section and the discussion, where different concepts already introduced in the theory chapter will be used to analyze a certain social or cultural phenomena. So, when it comes to the discussion and the discussion chapter, this is where you delve into the meaning, importance, and relevance of your results. It should focus on explaining and evaluating what you found, show how it relates to your literature review and research questions, and making an argument in support of your overall conclusion. There are many different ways to write this section, but you can focus your discussion around 4 key elements. Interpretations. What do the results mean? Implications. Why do the results matter? Limitations. What can the results tell us? And recommendations. What practical actions or scientific studies should follow your research? Let us start with the first one, interpretations. The meaning of the results might seem obvious to you, but it's important to spell out their significance for the reader and show exactly how they answer your research questions. The form of your interpretations will depend on the type of research, but some typical approaches to interpreting the data include identifying correlations, patterns, and relationships among the data, discussing whether the results met your expectations or supported your overall hypothesis, contextualizing your findings within previous research and theory. That would be the analysis in a social science paper, and explaining unexpected results and evaluating their significance for your research, considering possible alternative explanations and making an argument for your own position. And then there's 3 ways to organize your discussion section. You could do it in chronological order. That means that you follow the exact same order that you did in the result chapter, where you begin with the first results that came in and then go from there. Or the build-up. That means that you discuss results that are needed to be discussed in such a manner that your main finding will be easy to understand and the reader will really understand its significance. You build up to your most important results, to your main findings. And then you could also follow this approach, get straight to it and address the most important first. Start with the most important findings. Then implications, as well as giving your own interpretations. Make sure to relate the results back to the scholarly work that you surveyed in the literature review. The discussion should show how your findings fit with existing knowledge, what new insight they contribute, and what consequences they have for theory or practice. Then you should ask yourself these 3 questions. Do your results agree with previous research? If so, what do they add to it? Are your findings very different from other studies? If so, why might this be? And do your results support or challenge existing theories? Remember that your overall aim is to show the reader exactly what your research has contributed and why they should care about it. And if there are any practical implications to that. Limitations. Even the best research has some limitations, and acknowledging these are important to demonstrate your credibility. Limitations are not about listing your errors, but about providing an accurate picture of what can and cannot be concluded from your study. You should therefore only mention limitations that are directly relevant to your research objectives and evaluate how much impact they had on achieving the aims of the research. And after noting the limitations, you can repeat why the results are valid for the purpose of answering your research questions. Remember that limitations might be due to your overall research design, specific methodological choices, or unanticipated obstacles that emerged during the research process. One such example could be complications due to COVID-19 and different types of restrictions. Then, recommendations. Based on the discussion of your results, you can make recommendations for practical implementation or further research. Sometimes the recommendations are saved for the conclusion. So, suggestions for further research can lead directly from the limitations, where you clearly state what your research cannot give a good answer to. So when you try to do something like this, don't just state that more studies should be done. Try to give a concrete example or some concrete ideas on how this could be done. One example is to write something along the lines of this. Further research is needed to establish, and then something, or further studies should take into account, and then something that you have discovered that you find to be limiting for your own research. There are a few common mistakes to avoid when writing the discussion section of your dissertation. First of all, don't introduce new results or theoretical concepts. All the results should be presented in the results section, and every theoretical concept that you want to apply in the discussion section should already have been introduced in the theory chapter or the literature review. Don't make inflated claims. Avoid overinterpretation and speculation that is not supported by your data. Don't undermine your own research. The discussion of limitations should aim to strengthen your credibility, not emphasize weaknesses or failures. There is often an overlap between the discussion and conclusion. And in some dissertations, these two sections are included in a single chapter. Occasionally, the results and discussion will be combined into one chapter. If you're unsure of the best structure for your research, you should look at sample dissertations in your field or consult with your supervisor. Then the conclusion is not only about restating important findings, but you should show how your research connects to the problem formulation, research question or questions, or hypothesis. This should showcase how it solves a problem, fills a gap in knowledge, or pieces together a puzzle of dismantled information. You should also connect your research to a broader context. Show how it is relevant to the field at large, to other research on the same topic. Now let's go back to the journey analogy. The conclusion should answer and include: what was the plan? What was your most prominent experiences? What was the lesson? And what comes next? This will ensure a strong connection between the introduction and the final conclusion. Thank you so much.